when I was growing up, the two dreams that I wanted to be were either be a police officer or Batman if I could, and a father. And those things clashed. Actually, got to a point where I was like,
you won out of three right now. So you know what I'm saying. We can still get to the other two. We still got time.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Hey, it's Lionel Mosby Jr., and you're now back in with the Lion and the Lambo podcast, where we discuss biblical entrepreneurship, impact, and true success. And today I got on Mr. Theophilus Zhuang, who is who has come out with a podcast that, man, I'm definitely enjoying, the Noble Father podcast. How you doing today, Mr. Theophilus? How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah.
He's coming to us from a place that, you know, is very cold, you know. So I'm like on one end of the spectrum, he's on the other end of the spectrum. Right now, we are literally a living example of Revelation chapter 3. Jesus says, don't be hot or cold. Right now, we're on both of the extremes, okay? Because he's where the cold is, and I'm definitely where the hot is down here in Houston, Texas. You know what I mean? But I definitely choose the hot over the cold any day.
I used to too, so.
So personally, it's like, okay, look, I'm okay with the heat because the cold, I can't deal with it. People always just tell me layer up. All you gotta do is put on extra layers. Like,
yeah,
no.
No, I've gotten to embrace that now. Just get in cold water and dip under ice. Like, I'm full blown. Yeah.
Yeah, you all in. You all in with it, man. So you know, just as we start off, man, just, you know, to kind of give the people a background, how do you introduce yourself, you know, when you're meeting people for the first time? You know, how do you present yourself?
Yeah. Well, man, that's a simple question, but you know, I always seem to struggle with that. You know, it's like, how do I define what I do?
Yes.
So, you know, I say I'm a transformational coach. I like to work with fathers. You know, life purpose is my calling. I just love speaking to fathers about maximizing their potential. You know, now I've also said, like, oh, I'm maybe like a serial entrepreneur now. I run a podcast and I run a group, and you know, just building community, you know, finding the lost and just bringing them home, you know, really. Yeah. I mean, I don't say that to people. I say that to, you know, people in passing that, you know, aren't believers. I'll just be like, I'm a coach. I coach fathers. And that's about, I don't like to say too much. Yeah.
I mean, up to this point, you know, because this journey in entrepreneurship is definitely something that it's a process. You know, even when we talk about a lot of passages of scripture, I'm in Luke where Christ talks about how, hey, which of you intending to build a tower does not, you know, count the cost, whether you have the ability to not just start, but to complete the thing. And one thing that we discussed in our tent makers group was just about the fact of what does it mean to count the cost. A lot of times we only think about the financial aspect of it, but there's emotional cost of building a business. There's a social cost of building a business. Like the costs are in every aspect of life. And so we don't really look and say, man, we have this big goal, but a lot of times we're meeting goals along that journey too. So for you up to this point in your business and building, you know, what you're doing, what God has placed in your heart, what do you say is the biggest success for you up to this point in time?
I would probably say, I would say it's the impact. Like it's been hard, you know, the journey. It's so hard sometimes to be like, I'm here. This is where God wants me. When things aren't going well, it's easy for me to look on job boards, you know, and try to find a way out. And but I always come back to the fact that I have these fathers from all over the world, and they like the space that we hold together, and I get to form a relationship with these people. I get to go beyond just the surface level, like with them, and so it's a place for me to be a light to people, and that's every time I think of quitting, I'm like, wow, God, you have me here for a reason. I'm feeling this lack of peace for a reason. I mean, that'd be number one. I mean, number two is be able to be with my family. That was really one of the things about starting this journey was that I wanted to be a present father. I prayed that
Right.
prayer as a kid. I was like, I want to be a father, and I took that really seriously. And so, like you said, it cost something. This costed
Mm.
me. I needed to make that sacrifice. I need to feel those things in order to be where I am right now. So,
Right. No,
yeah.
that makes sense. And when I know you say you're transformational coach. With these fathers, what is it that you are really what I guess what need are you helping to address in these fathers' life specifically, right? And how do you go about helping them to find that solution?
Yeah, so in clients that I've served in the past, and I'm still trying to figure out like how the group is kind of, you know, how that ties into the coaching bit. It doesn't seem to really connect at the moment. So for for the fathers that I've served in the past, it's really just like transformational coach is inside out coaching, I guess you can say. So
Mm.
a transactional coach would be somebody who like teaches Kobe Bryant how to shoot a ball, how to dribble a ball, and how to defend and all that stuff. The transformational coach would be like teamwork, mindset, beliefs, thoughts, and stuff, just like the mind game,
Mm.
and so for a transformational coach, I focus on purpose, identity. Identity is a big thing.
Right.
Identity, purpose, calling, strengths. What are your weaknesses? And also like understanding what did God give you in terms of passions and desires that is unique to you, and who are the people that only you can serve, and what is it that you should do? Like each of us is different. Like we all have different things, and so my process is really just to like walk with them through it, right? Coaching isn't to tell somebody, hey, take that step, walk here and do this. It's like, let's draw out everything God put inside of you. What is that
Mm.
gift inside of you? Let's open that gift, unpack it, open up everything, experiences that you've had in the past. Maybe it's like,
Mm.
I'm not supposed to open up trauma, right? But that's a conversation we have. Like, why did you have that experience? And let's talk about that. And then use that as what's the way forward. Now that we
Mm.
know who we are, anything that comes our way, we know how to answer. We know how to go. What is the direction, rather than saying, I want 90K a year, and then finding what that thing is, and hopefully it
Right.
fits inside here. It's the other way around. It's to change the way they think and to
Mm.
figure out the way forward from there.
So you're cleaning the inside of the cup and not just the outside of the cup. That's
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
what I'm hearing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, right there, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I love. I term it biblical entrepreneurship because there's so many. I mean, these principles in the scriptures just are so true, and we can resonate them in all the things that we do. It really leads me to ask too, as far as what you're doing and working, really closely knit with fathers. Do you find that it's been harder to help these men, right, to open up and to be vulnerable and to have these conversations, or do you find that they are more willing because of the space that you have specifically created? Like, what are you seeing as far as that's concerned?
Yeah. It's definitely been more of a challenge than anything. I'm trying to figure out what the analogy would be. I think maybe it's just like, we're all trying to climb this mountain, and people who are interested in coaching, I'm interested to start the journey, and they either fall off or they turn back around. It's just every bit of the way. It's hard. I think for men, it's like we we're committed, we take a step, maybe it's get on a consultation call, somebody falls through, they don't show up, they ghost you. And I've had that. And even for like the Noble Father meetup groups, like it's a free group, it's a free call, and they know the value. They want to have that kind of community, they want that camaraderie, but somewhere along the way they just fall off
Mm.
they just don't show up. They say they're interested, they always, and then afterwards they give me excuses too, like, and it's like, when are you going to commit to that? And I think it's because of the audience that I serve. And I don't like to blame others. I also think that maybe some part of that is on me, where it's like the messaging maybe is a little bit weird or whatever. um and I just trust God. It's like maybe I'm not supposed to have that conversation with them.
Mm. Right. And I mean that's the thing about refining as we move forward too, and
Yeah.
as we keep going through things, right? God is going to readjust and help us to really get more, defined along the way. But even the fact that you have identified this specific target group, of fathers, right,
Hmm.
as the area that you are, feel led to work with, I mean, that's to me an accomplishment, because a lot of people, a lot of biblical entrepreneurs that I see don't have yet a focus, right? They don't
Right.
have yet a target audience. They
Right.
have this general thing that I'm good at, this general calling that I feel led towards, right, in this direction, but they yet haven't kind of really started to define and decipher who specifically they're called to, that purpose that they're called to, right, is actually addressing, and that need that they're addressing. For you, how did you come to the point that you say, man, it's fathers, right? It's not sons, right? It's not families. It's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how did you come and land on this specific target audience, right? And
Right.
to say that, okay, God has called me to really address these individuals with this specific need. Because you didn't just say men, right?
Right.
You said fathers, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's more of like a marketing thing where they tell you, "Oh, you speak to, everybody, you speak to nobody." So it's like, it's like almost like felt like I had to pick somebody to speak to. But,
Mm-hmm.
it was almost a no-brainer for me because,
Mm-hmm.
just like I was saying, like, what are the passions and what are the things that God has given you to use and to unravel. And as I uncovered, I was like, fatherhood is just like something that I am all in. I'm an all in person. That's how he created me. And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
either I'm all the way in or I'm all the way out. And so when I was growing up, the two dreams that I wanted to be were either be a police officer or Batman if I could, and a father. And those things clashed. Actually, got to a point where I was like,
you won out of three right now, so you know what I'm
what?
saying. We can still get to the other two. We still got time,
Right,
you know.
right. Yeah, so I mean, it's still a dream. It's still in the bag. Those dreams never go away. But being a father, and then just living that life. And I was like, you're a coach now. What do you want to coach on? What do you want to? And as a coach, it's like it's not just like I said, it's not just telling people what to do. Like you got to be able to swallow your own medicine. You got to be able to
Mm,
walk the walk first. You can't. I'm
mm,
not one of those hypocritical ones where it's like I don't have to change myself. Like in coaching, there's something we say, you can only go as deep with your client as you've gone yourself. And so
mm,
I can't coach. I mean, I can't coach a mother. I can't coach drug addicts because I've never had a drug addiction. I've never recovered from something like that. And so what are the places of experience that I could speak from, that I could pour
mm,
into, and that I'm passionate about, that just it just comes out of me. Like there's nothing I can do about it, like you could talk about the saints and stuff, like it just comes out of you, right? It's just like passionate. It's easier to cut. It's just smooth as butter
mm,
whenever you bring it out. And so, coaching fathers, man, on the life purpose thing, like I really feel called to like change the world
mm.
one generation at a time. And it starts with fathers, man. If you look in the world, we are so fatherless, and I didn't like that, and I wanted to change that.
Man, that it's so interesting, right? To hear you, present, saying that, right? Because it makes me think about Christ during the time of when he was on the Mount of Olives, giving out the Beatitudes, right? That Sermon on the Mountain, and it said that those the centurions, right, the Roman soldiers that came and heard him, they went back to give the report, and they said, "Hey, man, never a man spake as he spake," right? And I read a commentary one time that says, never a man spake as he spake because never a man lived as he lived. And I just thought that was
Mm,
so powerful because, when you have an experience, right, you speak a completely different way. And it's just
right.
like you saying, well, I couldn't coach this specific group of people. I haven't been through that, right? I've never been a drug
Yep.
addict. So how could I coach somebody through that, right?
Yep.
Haven't had that experience, but I've had this experience here as a father. So I
Mhm.
can help coach people through that thing. And it's those experiences that we have that we can then turn around and then help others with, right? When you taste some certain food, right? You've gone to a certain restaurant, you can say, hey, man, this food is fire, right? Because you're speaking with authority. You've actually
Mhm.
tasted it yourself.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing it's the same thing when we talk about from a personal walk standpoint, right? Jesus is trying to pour something inside of each and every one of us, right? That we
Yep.
can then, right? He can then pull it out of us so we can be a benefit to other people. And
Right.
it's no different in whatever our calling is or whatever we've been, whatever we're seeking to do. And so, even for our listeners out there, what is it that you look and say in your experience, right, in your life, that you can say, man, this is something I've overcome. This is something that I've been through. This is something I've learned. This is a skill I've gained, because
Yeah.
it's that you can then pull on to then turn and be a blessing to somebody else with, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about you going out here and grasping at something that you have no knowledge in, that you have no abilities in. God
Yeah.
is going to use that thing that he has given you skill and knowledge and ability in. And even something that's, sometimes we wouldn't think about the fact that, man, how I've actually raised my son and kept a connection with him throughout these years. There's many people who are dying to understand how to do that better, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
something as simple as that could be the same thing that God could turn around and you have such an impact with people on. And that thing be the thing that he uses to also help you take care of your family, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
He can
Yeah.
do both.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, if you think about God, like, does he waste? Like, does he give you something that he doesn't intend for you to use?
Come on. Yeah.
And then what, you're gonna, stay in this comfy, cozy job, not maximizing that, right? You're gonna feel like there's a reason we feel unfulfilled, right? There's got to be a reason why we feel unfulfilled. I'll just let people make that, what is that? Why do we have that?
No, it's true. That's one thing that last week, I did this this live, and it's talking about why we feel overwhelmed and underpaid, right? And the reality is because we're not using that gift or talent that God has given us,
Right.
because it is that thing, right? That not only will we be aligned as far as like, yes, it takes care of us as far as from a financial temporal standpoint, but also it's the thing that actually make us feel fulfilled. It's our purpose. That's the road toward our destiny.
Right.
It is on that thing that God has given us. And so if we can focus our attention on that, man, that the world would be so much happier, because we'll all be in the place that God has always designed us to be, right?
Right.
So I think it's super, super
Oh,
important.
absolutely. Yeah. And those people in that position, it's like, well, I'm taking care of my own finances. When you think about it, it's like if you maximize that skill, or every part of yourself, everything God gave you, God pays for what he asks for. Right? God pays for what he intends. And so it's like, what do you have to worry about? I'm in that process right now. It's like, Lord, I want to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. What do I do? Like, I need to pay for this. Like, what happens here? You just got to trust. You just got to, give it up to him. This is the assignment for the day. This is what I've put on your heart. I want you to move forward with it. Man, go for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And is that, I know you talk about identity, right? Is that something that you see that many of these fathers are also wrestling with themselves when you're having those conversations with them?
Oh yeah, this is a thing that's actually been, we actually just went through a series at our church with identity. Identity is this like really big piece, and I feel like everybody deals with that to an extent, because actually, devil's one attack on us is to attack that identity piece. Well, you're not that, right? He never said that about you, right? It's always this identity attack, and so, we take it out on each other in our identities, right? Like, we even our parents, early on growing up, it's like, oh no, you can't do that. Or, my example is my, always trying to appease my mom, and the way the way I arranged the dish rack, the drying dish racks. She'd always come down, and she'd always be very perfectionist about it and say, no, she'll scoff, and then she'll sigh, and then she'll move. It's a subjective matter, right? But always trying to, like, make her happy, and make it perfect that one time, and never was able to do that. So, part of me was like, you can't do anything right. You are not worthy of celebration. You can't do anything proper. And I wore that for the longest time, man. Like, and when I finally got rid of all those things, and once your identity is firm and you know who you are, God gave you that. He doesn't say, oh, you sinner, yes, you work as a slave now in my family. Like, he gives you the robe, he gives you the ring. You are what I say you are. And that's a beautiful thing. Everybody has that. Everybody has something they're holding on to that doesn't belong to them, whether it's from school, the world. And the world is a good example, right? It tells you what we think you are. You say you are, and then you think about the deviation. Where would you go? With that identity piece that you can't do anything right. Well, then I'm just going to stay to myself. And this manifested itself in me before I became a coach. Was did my digital marketing agency, and there were so many things that I started, spent a lot of time building funnels and building systems and stuff, never released it. Always doubting
Mm,
myself, thinking that this isn't going to help anybody. And I accepted the lie that the devil said about it. And I just didn't finish it, never saw it to completion.
mm,
And those are things that still sit there untouched. I haven't, gone back or anything. And it's just a lesson for me to know that that was not who I am.
hmm.
And
Man,
now this is me. Nothing holds me back. Like I should just go, right? And so,
right.
yeah.
I mean, how when you see that, I guess first and foremost in your life and experience, right? You kind of are, starting to extrapolate that out, right? But what did you see change for you when you finally came to that place where you recognize your identity in Christ? And also what maybe have you seen as you're helping other fathers to recognize their true identity in Christ? How are you seeing that having an impact on even some of the things that they were previously struggling with, for example, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah, mine, the battle is all fought up here.
mm,
And everybody has that. I thought that successful people didn't have any kind of that resistance.
hmm,
But in reality, it's what they chose to do in spite of that resistance. And so this year has been a good example of that. It's just been like, I got COVID at the beginning of the year, and I was like, I couldn't really do much. And I just thought in my head, I was just like, should write a book. And then
mm,
all these things flood into your head. It's like, well, what are you going to do about you got to get into a PDF. Like, what are you going to type it on? Like, what about the cover photo, like the cover of the thing? Like, how are you going to do that? Like the mock up and everything. And I could have let it like get in the way, but I just like, you know what?
hmm,
Let's just sit down and start writing. Let's just do that, and just started typing it out. So I went on Canva. Literally just got on Canva, opened up. Oh, you can make a book. Write a book. Started typing it all out. 20 pages in, I was like, okay, I feel like this is good. And then just finished it, just completed it. Oh, make the mock
amen,
up. How do we make a mock up? Look it up. I did that whole process in 2 days. And then
mm,
suddenly I was like, that's a great example. It's a great exercise on, well, you got resistance. What do we do with the resistance? Push past it. Let's just put
mm,
our head down. Let's just do it and see where it takes us and learn along the way. And I
mm.
learned a ton along the way. And then since that
Wow.
time, it's just been, let's make the podcast. How do we do that? Somebody was like, oh, Anchor, put it up. Did it. Just it's easy. It was just like, wow, I'm just like making mountains out of molehills. And just like everything just revealed itself. It's just like, hey, this is the next step. What do I need to do next? And then just figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
And so fathers, like for fathers, it's like they face a lot of that. It's like all
Mm-hmm.
these things are constantly in their way. It's like I'm getting stuck on this. Why am I getting stuck on this? And you know, I obviously tell them to go from the inside out, but then also it's like once we know who that person is, then we know what the next thing is. No, then
Mm-hmm.
we know what to do. And you know, I'm always trying to provide alternative perspectives. Always trying to help them to think outside of the box, not just not just where they're currently at. And that's always helpful because as men, we don't talk enough.
Right.
And so that's really just holding the space, bringing them together, and you know, being a light. Being a light. Just I have something to give. I have something here
Right.
that's worthwhile. I've experienced it. I want you to have it too. Do you want it? If they don't, fine. Maybe it's a timing issue, whatever. Um, but yeah, it's I'm trying to put those things together right now. And we're in the process, but um,
Right.
it's been rewarding.
What have you found has been the main issue that keeps them from, speaking and addressing those issues? Is it just the lack of available spaces to do that? Like
Mm.
what do you think that reason is for that?
Yeah, I I could blame a ton of things. One maybe like money, maybe that actually money is a huge thing. It's this weird dynamic for fathers where father's a breadwinner, brings home the money, and when it comes time to think about what to invest in, or it's easy for us to like fixate on the bills that we got to pay, and we're not able to do this and do that, not invest in this and that. I feel like dads peg themselves the lowest on the totem pole,
I think that's definitely true. Yeah.
right? Like they don't see value. It's like, see, that's an identity piece. If you think about that, that's an identity thing. It's like you are not worthy of investment.
Mm,
You shouldn't invest this money in yourself, Lionel. Like the devil would just say that to you because he doesn't want you to make breakthrough. And that's number one. That's probably the number one attack on mankind, is
Mm,
attacking the leadership of the house, the leadership of men,
mm.
take away
That's
their voice,
that's a good point.
keep them in prison, keep them pushed down by society demands. Like, just go down the list. Like, think about this world that we're at right now. Everything, pornography attacks men, right? It's more for
Mm,
men. There's just, when I look at it, it's just like, wow, it's like it's actually quite sad. And I mean, I can't force somebody to invest in themselves. I can only present the facts, and then hopefully it moves them to do something. But if not, I'm still able to have a conversation with them, continue to mold and try to like push and imply a little. That's all I can do.
wow, that's a great point and great thought. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't considered or thought about it that way, but I used to. You know, my mother used to always make the statement about, you know, she's the one, right? That's what the statement she would make. But I understood what she meant was that, hey, when everything else falls or falters, right, like everything falls on me, right,
Yeah.
and I
Hmm.
have to be the one to hold it up.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point in time, you know, a few years back, I was thinking, well, if you're the one, then really you have to make sure that you're good,
Hmm.
because that means if you're not good and if you're not in a position, right, to hold these things up,
Yeah.
then at the time when you need to actually be stable for someone else, whatever, like you're gonna crumble, right? And it's
Yep.
because you didn't maintain yourself. And I
Right.
think that's what you're saying too, as well, for many of these fathers that's out there. It's like you have to take you got to examine yourself, right, and take
Yep.
maintenance, because you have to be there for your children. You have to be there for your spouses, right, in
Yeah.
order to actually be able to be good at those times and at those moments where you need it. But if you just and I think that's the thing, right? It's because it's seen as that which seems to be selflessness, right? It actually is a hindrance, right? And not
Yep.
actually a help.
Yep.
Because that's what it's coming from. It's definitely not coming from a place of selfishness, right?
Yep.
But it's misplaced, right?
Yeah.
Because the reality is it's not selfish to maintain yourself, right, and to make sure that you are mentally are good, to make sure you're
Yep.
spiritually good, to make sure
Yep.
you're physically good.
Yep.
Because guess what? You're gonna need those things, help you to always be there and be ready to then be what you need to be in your family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the where the it's like an icebreaker, right? You
Mm,
polish the ship and you make sure the everything runs smoothly, you oil the gears and everything, but the tip of the ship, you forgot about that. Like, you are the leader,
mm,
you are the the one that's most worthy of investment, if anything, because you direct your family, you set that example, and yet a lot of fathers nowadays play second fiddle,
wow.
if they even get to, you know, um, and that's
Mm.
incredibly sad. Um, I don't have the solutions really. It's just really a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what my question was going to be. Well, then, how do you get this individual, right, to see that him making this decision is not a hindrance, right? That it's not going to take away. It's actually ultimately going to benefit not just him, but actually benefits the whole, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
How do you get them to see that and to view these things in this way, right?
Yeah.
Even from just using health, for example, right? There's many guys who will who would overburden them and overtaxing themselves as far as their work maybe is concerned, right? And they're not taking care of their health, right?
Yep.
Because they said, well, man, for me to go spend an hour at the gym or to go, you see what I'm saying? It's like, well, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm taking time away and I'm robbing this from these other aspects that are important. When it's like, but look, if you lose your health, you're going to end up losing all those other things and the ability to do those other things too. So
Yeah.
this thing is something that you looking at it as if it's for you, but the truth is you maintaining this is actually for the benefit of all these other people. Like
Yeah.
how do you get
Right.
them to realize that? I guess.
Yeah. And like, I've chewed on this, life purpose. Once you've gotten the topic, it's like God really takes you to some really, really crazy places, and everything in this world is connected. It's not just, and even not just health, right? It's like even what you choose as a vocation as your work, is that if it's something that stresses you out and drains your energy and your life. Let's just think
Yeah.
about that for a second. Okay. Stress. What does stress do to our bodies? Shuts down our immune system. And what does that look like years down the road? Let's just say it takes 5 years off your life. That's 5 years you don't get with your kids, you don't get with your wife, you don't get retirement. There's all these things. And I feel like what we're doing now is like we are not spending the resources now, but it's costing our time later. Whereas we should be spending what we have now and then getting the help that we need to save us that time. And then, you'll end up in a better place. The trajectory of that is like exponential. And so, I mean, getting them to think about that, it's God has really worked on my content, just trying to get my wording out, because I do feel like this is a bit of cutting edge stuff, which is so strange. It shouldn't be cutting edge.
Right.
Like I'm reading the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and it's like I think I've learned that I'm an innovator. So creating this space for the fathers is something that's never been done, I feel. And to the extent that I would have wanted it, even though we're so connected with like technology, we're still so disconnected. Like Facebook groups, man, like 40, 50,000 people in a group, all texting, using text to talk. Like that's only like 10% of communication. And it's like,
Right.
we're missing so much of that. And so building, like just getting connected with people and just being able to be a light, and just, whether it's through my reels or through my text and my content, it's really just like slowly try to keep pushing those wounds, like, why do you feel that way? Like, do you like where you're at right now? It almost, it's not fun to do that as marketing. But like, I don't think fathers, it's hard, man. I'm still figuring it out. I really don't really have an answer of how to answer that. Like, well, how am I doing that? How am I changing that perspective? I feel like I'm doing it through my life and through my content. That's really the only way that I can do it. Like through the conversations that I have. Hopefully they see something that like, man, even as Christians, right? You'll hear that all the time where it's like people come up to you saying something's different about you. Like, I want what you have.
Right.
That kind of feeling. I haven't gotten there yet. Maybe that's going to come soon. But just trusting in the Lord right now, this is where he has me. And, this is where I'm going to be.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's so important, especially with putting out, like you say, you have the living aspect of it. And then now it's like, okay, well, how do I share this in a way to where it actually attracts people to actually receive, the information now that I'm giving them. I think that pain is it's something that catches people's attention, and I think that's why in marketing and branding is something that is used, right? And again, right, I always love to go back to the scriptures, right? There's when you think of Jesus, approaching a man who's been, lame for so long, and he asked him like, hey, would you be made whole? Right? He's addressing his issue, right? He's addressing his problem.
Right.
He's addressing the pain, right? With the solution that is in front of him. And of course, the excuse comes from the gentleman, right? Because that's what he's been used to. He's been used to making excuses and reasons why, right? Always looking at reasons why, right? You know what I'm saying? And then Jesus addresses him again, right? And tells him like, hey, take these actions, right? And then you'll be healed, right? And so I think, these things that people do, even in marketing, again, right? A lot of these, we can look at biblical examples for these things, right? There is a call out or a pointing out of this pain or of this situation or of this issue, right? Because that's what catches people's attention. Wow, like, my issue, the woman at the well, right? It's like, you're right. You haven't had, you've actually had 5 husbands, right? And the one who you're with now is not your husband. I got your attention. You see what I'm saying? I now I got your attention. It's like, are you a prophet, right? You see what I'm saying? So I think that appealing to pain is something that for some reason, right, in humanity, that catches our attention more than even putting pleasure. And I heard somebody once make the statement that, you don't believe people that you don't know, right? And so if I come to you and say, hey, hey fathers, like I'm going to help you to have this, right? It's like, well, I don't know you, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're holding out all these promises, but I have no relationship with me. Why should I trust you, right? Versus
Right.
me coming and I'm calling out all the things that you yourself know you're going through right now with your
Mm.
children. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? This and this and this and this. And it's like, it looks as if he's looking in my house right now, right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Now my ears are perked up. I can hear what you're going to say. And when you say, I have an answer to your solution, well, you know my problem.
Yeah.
So you probably got an answer then. Or maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know, right? But
Yeah.
the truth is, if you can see my problem, you probably can see my solution. And, I think, again, this is for those who are listening in whatever area, field, or career you're in, right? It is important for us to understand our audiences, right? And that's why, being very targeted helps a lot, because
Yeah.
you kind of get to focus on this target audience and say, okay, what are the situations they're dealing with? Well, I know because I've been through it, right? So I know they were dealing with this mentally, they're dealing with this physically, they're dealing with this in the household, right? And now you can then formulate a package around, okay, I know I have the solution, but they're not just gonna come to the solution if I don't help them to they have to recognize. Jesus even make the statement, right, that those who see don't need a physician, right? It's those who are blind that need a physician, right? And so
Right.
the first thing is he has to help us recognize that we actually can't see. Is when we realize that we can't see, that we seek after Jesus, right?
Right.
And so this is, again, a good business is a gospel business, right? We follow the same pattern. And so if we want to help people, the first thing we have to help them to realize is like, hey, you're actually blind, right? Because they are blind.
Yeah.
They just don't know that they're blind, right?
Right.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we have to show, hey, you're blind. Now they seek the help. Now they seek the physician. So, yeah, I mean, I was just saying that based off of the statement, because I think it is important in everybody in their business. With me, I'm here doing real estate, right? Like, what are the issues that people are feeling? I know that people are experiencing strain right now all over the country. Yeah, even where you are, right? Of like, man, these prices are increasing. Like, I want to go to a new apartment, for example, but I can't because my rate done went up, and now I realize that the rate over here done went up, but my wages didn't change.
Right.
My wages have stayed the same, and they're still asking for 3 times the rent. And so how am I gonna go from here to here? But guess what? If you would have purchased the home, your mortgage is locked in. And so no matter if the next 20 years it keep going up and keep going up, your mortgage will stay the same, right?
Right.
I know the problem. I know what you're dealing with. I know what the stress level is in your life and experience, because I've been there too, right?
Yeah.
So, but now addressing that helps you to see that, okay, I understand where you're at, so I probably understand the solution, to your problem. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And I think that's the difficult thing for me, is just like pushing those pain points. It's easy to see it and then not call it out sometimes. I'm always learning. This is a business where you don't stop learning. So it's like BJJ, really. You start out. It's like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You're just surviving in the beginning. You're just learning as much as you can. You're getting beat up by kids and beat up by girls and beat up by smaller men, and I'm learning. I'm learning my way through it, and I think there's a reason God has me where I am right now with the way my marketing is right now.
Right.
There's a lot of fine tuning and stuff that I'm going through. Maybe there's also definitely things for me to grow out of too. It's a never ending journey. I think to ask, God intends, God knows where exactly we are, and He just meets us where we are. Yeah, He's not going to give us something we're not ready for.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. And for you, I mean, what have you seen as far as a coach, right? What is because before you were talking about like the need for people to receive that help, right? And that's really what a coach does. It's really what a coach is. Have you found that having a coach is something that actually helps people to go through that process quicker? They're able to learn and pick up, because it seems like they need that accountability to get from point A to point B. And you also have gone through the process of having a coach as well, right? So like, what did that do for you, and why do you see that, okay, this is something where now I am going into the coaching arena because I know the impact that it has on people?
Yeah. So coaching is really it's a curated product. It's something that somebody prepared in advance, and for me, and the way I want to run my coaching business is really through my life, and And it was really given to me by God, actually. The methodology of how I came to understand that coaching was my thing, or my, I like to say, reason for being. He walked me through it, and so now that I have that methodology and I've used this in past clients, they've been able to, Christian and non-Christian alike, even that identity exercise, man, like they get something back, like they hear who they are. And I'm not sure I'm answering your question. What was your question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, it's just basically just what have you seen for yourself? Like, what did having a coach do for you? And what about that led you to go into the coaching field, because you know that this really has an impact on people if they would actually take advantage of it?
Yeah, if you asked me that question, beginning of the year, I wouldn't have a lot of things to give you, but I got wonderful analogies now that I can use, and it's actually quite beautiful. And I think that so there was a study that was done in the 30s, I believe, where they were studying the efficiency of creatures, of natural creatures, so like birds or whatever, of energy spent and distance traveled. And so number one was the condor, the big bird. So it can glide for hours on end. It'll flap its wings like maybe 3 or 4 times an hour or something like that. So it's really efficient. That was number one. Like a third of the way down was men, like humans. And we were like next to like salmon and like bees. And so they like tested something else. They're like, okay, well, what happens if we put a person on a bike? And the person on the bike flew away with it. Like, just blew the competition out of the water. And so when we think about coaching, or even let's just use Michael Jordan. I literally just spoke about this on my podcast yesterday. Is Michael Jordan, if we were to separate his trajectories from Michael Jordan with a coach, Michael Jordan without a coach, who's going to be more legendary? Let's be real, right? Let's just say, the coach is his job is not to tell him how to play the game. It's to sharpen those edges that he has, right? Tell him, hey, like, Jordan, I noticed that you go for the dunk and then you just kind of like loaf around under the net. Like, you're not being defensive or whatever. That little slight improvement will improve him as a player, right? So the trajectory of Michael Jordan with a coach is going to be exponentially higher. And so without a coach, and I've noticed this even in myself, whenever I get a coach, man, like, it's like I'm no longer having a conversation with myself, and I can't go deep with myself. I'll have other things flood in, and I won't be focused on what it is that I should be answering. What is that question? Whereas a coach is really there to be like, ooh, let's pull on that a little bit, and we'll go really deep. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. And actually, it's a natural process for me now, because once I sit down, it's like they ask me a question, I just keep going. I'm staying focused because I'm engaging in a conversation. Keep going. And I'm just like drawing out so much stuff within myself. And that's really what a coaching process is about, it's to draw out everything that you have within yourself. And I'm just there to deepen your understanding. I'm asking open-ended questions for you to continue to deepen that. So that's why whenever we're talking about, life purpose, what's that gift that God has within you? I am like trying to shine a light in there. It's like, hey, you said this this way. Why did you say it that way? And then just pulling on threads. Oh, I see this thread. Well, that's interesting. Let's pull on this. And then, that's really the process. And why I love coaching so much is it's so many people have the misconception that, oh, it's just giving advice. It's not giving advice. It's really just me holding a space for you, facilitating a deeper insight, deeper revelation for you to understand your situation and yourself better, to understand where it is you want to go. And because you've identified what you want to do and where you want to go, you are coming up with the next step, and I'm holding you to the next step. That's really the whole process.
Man, that's on point. And that's powerful. I like the analogy about, when you talked about the different creatures and different people who different, animals and, humans who, the time versus the energy spent. And I think that's a lot of times what we also miss out on as well. It's just like we said, we're not focused on, the spending the time now to save the 5 years later. And so we lost that 5 years of time with family. We lost those 5 years of retirement. We lost that ability that we would have had if we just spent it now. And the same thing, like, if I can get to that point quicker because I have somebody coaching me along the way, then it makes more sense for me and all those around me. And it really made me just think, like, really, we use the term coach, and I think people, and it's something that's becoming bigger now, right, in our day
Yeah.
and time.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you really could, if you don't use the word coach, you can use a lot of different other words for the same process, though, that
Right.
is going on. And in
Yeah.
almost every area of life, you have coaching going on, right? When you talk
Yep.
about, being in school, a teacher is a coach, right?
Mhm.
That's really what that is, right?
Yep.
Because you could technically just get the information and go through everything yourself, but the
Yeah.
teacher or that coach is actually helping you to that learning curve, right, to shorten dramatically,
Yep.
because they're helping you walk through the process, right? Or a
Yep.
teacher aide that assists the teacher and the students is another form of a different type of coach, right?
Right.
A tutor is a different type of coach. All
Right.
these are still, even in the education arena, though,
Yep.
still seeking to do the same thing. Talk
Yep.
about going online and seeing videos, right? Khan Academy or whatever. This is a different type of coaching, right? Or a
Mhm.
course, right?
Mhm.
Which is doing the same exact thing, but in
Yep.
every area of life. When you go into business, right? When you first into a job, you have training going on. Well, that's somebody who's coaching you, right? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? When you
Yep.
have assessments, right? That managerial position is really a coaching position to
Yep.
coach this team, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
To make sure they stay on task, to keep them
Squeeze more out of you.
accountable,
Yeah.
right? So, really, in every aspect of life now, when you talk about fathers, right? Fathers are to be coaches, right? For their families as a whole, for their children, right? To lead and
Yep.
guide. That's
Yep.
just another form of a different type of coaching. But the truth is, coaching is all around us. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and now I'm just, as you was talking, I'm realizing, like, man, this is all coaching. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This
We
is
all
all
do it.
just a
Yeah.
different type of coaching. We just don't see it. We don't see it specifically as coaching because we may not use the term,
Mhm.
but it's really what it is, right? And
Mhm.
people shouldn't have a fear of the fact that you need this, because you know that, hey, I may hit this plateau in working out, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or whatever it may be. I may be able to get to this point, but guess we may get to a point though where that teacher that you have can't take you to the next level. You have to go
Mhm.
get a different coach in the same field to
Mhm.
go to the next level in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Or with your
Yeah.
workout plan, or with your, your diet regimen, or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
There's even different levels based on levels of expertise, based on, so but it's super important, right? And we know intrinsically that inside of us, we know that these things help and they take us to a point, right? Because that's the
Yep.
reason they're put in that place. The reason you
Yep.
train a person so they don't take 9 months to get it. You need them to start learning it in a couple weeks so they can be up and running by themselves, and you can,
Right.
like, let them go on the job, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Like nothing's stopping you from like defending yourself in court. If you want to learn all the content yourself, go for it. Right. Like
that's
that is why a
facts.
lawyer is so expensive. Right. Oh,
Yep.
you don't want to take care of your health. Well, you got to go pay for a doctor because that doctor took, time to train, learn, hone his craft
Yeah.
to get to where it is now to heal your sick body.
Wow.
It's
This
funny
is
because,
crazy.
this
Yeah.
conversation right now is a good example of what a coaching relationship could be like, because it's like, as you're speaking, I'm drawing information, I'm learning from you, you're
Mm.
deepening my understanding. Your interpretation of what you just said of the time spent and the distance traveled, I actually didn't correlate that. I didn't connect those pieces, but having had that conversation, we are connecting and deepening our understanding of things.
Mm.
Even with coaching, as you were saying, a father is technically a coach, but there's a difference. If you're coaching your kids on giving it, like you're giving advice from
Mm.
your crappy life, that's not coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is that not coaching, it's you're coaching your son to be a crappy version of you. You're not drawing out what's great within your children,
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
right? Like and I see this all the time. I go work out at a nearby track, and this dad is trying to help his kid be a better baseball player. He's having his kid run around the soccer field. And what's he doing? Standing there yelling directions in a Hawaiian shirt. Like, what are you doing? And he's got a beer gut and everything. It's like, dude, like, there's a disconnect here. How can you tell your kid to do that when you're not doing that in yourself? And so, one of the things about coaching fathers for me also is like, I'm not just coaching the father per se, like, I'm coaching him to create a legacy of it, a life of example to his children, because
Mm-hmm.
that's more than any word he can give his kids. Like, it's
Right.
your life is the example. That is the legacy itself. Show them that, and they'll know how to do the
Mm.
rest of it. Like, let them
Mm.
see it. And so, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm really fired up about that stuff. So,
No, that's really good. And it kind of, my thought process more recently has been the fact that I've been thinking about, they talk about the highest level of value. And I've heard Brother Myron Golden talk
Yeah.
about this, right? These 4 levels of value that we have, right? And people are paid based on their levels of value, but I've really been thinking and considering in my mind that there's really a higher level of value, or I don't know if it's level of value in that sense, but I always think about it as the highest level of business is actually character. That's what the highest level of business is to my mind, right? I haven't really been able to formulate it right into a full framework, right? But the more and more I think about it, I'm like, that's really the ultimate purpose, because the purpose of business, right? Because I believe every business is a ministry, right? And so my business is to impact other people, but really what I'm doing, right, is I'm helping to develop their character, because, and like you say, what I'm really seeking to do in the business is to take them from this place to another place that I've already been through, right? I'm walking them along the journey that I've already experienced. So if I'm coaching them in say real estate or whatever, right, I've gone through this process. So now I can turn around and help them because I walked so many people through this process before, right? And so I'm taking them from this place to this place, but now that can happen because I've been through it already, right? So now this thing has developed inside me that I can now go help somebody else with. And so to me, I'm like, well, this is like this has to be the highest form, right? This has to be the highest purpose, you know what I'm saying, of business is character development, right? Me as the business owner, but then also translating that to the people that I'm now doing business with. And no matter what area of life that is, or no matter what needs you're meeting, right, you're really helping to transform something in their life and experience. That's really what's supposed to be going on. Should be something transformational going on in them, right? For somebody who goes from, trying to take care, even something as simple as dry cleaning or something, right? Like, from the whole purpose, right, is to transform their experience as far as how they take care and maintain their appearance, right? Is to take them from the place that they were to the place where they're now at. So, right, this thing is important because it represents who they are. So they want to present themselves in their best as God has given them, right? And so this is to help to transform that experience and that portion of their life, right? That's what it's supposed to do. It's to have some type of transformational touch on them. And no matter what business you are, no matter what you're doing, we should be doing that. And so we have a business that isn't transforming them positively, right, in their character, in that direction, then woe to us, right? Because that's probably not, a God ordained business, right? You know what I'm saying? Because it should be something that's moving people forth in their character development. But like I say, the full framework isn't there, but the thought process keeps coming back to my mind. It's the character. It's the character. That's what it's about, right? It's that's being developed in me, and that which is being developed in other people through the interaction and the transaction that we're having.
Yes. And that's a good, like, maybe help you understand it better, is like ministry. Like you said, tent making group, right?
Yeah.
So tent making group, what is that? So I have I have good experience with that too. When we're doing ministry in China, a lot of it is tent making. It's like we have to use some other means to carry the word of God to the people, and not just the word, but also our lives, our character. How do we do business? We have to go against the grain. What does the world say? We do business this way, but no, this is how it's actually done. And through that difference, they see our lives as there's something's not right about this person, but it's in a good way, And so, like, yeah, that's how ministry is done. Character, number one. So maybe that's where Myron Golden gets it. I don't know.
Yeah, man, it's definitely powerful, and it's definitely something that I think I want to spend more time considering, because I know, like, there's something there, man.
Yeah.
But man, this has been an awesome conversation. I've appreciated it. I just want to take a brief moment just to talk about the sponsor for this episode, and then afterwards, can you close us out just with a word to the fathers, to those who may be going through experience right now where they feel like that, they're just a failure at this moment, right? They don't know who they are, right? They feel like they're not at the place they need to be for their family. Just maybe lead them with a word of encouragement, and also let us know well, all the places that we can find you at, right? Because you're a serial entrepreneur here. But, today our sponsor for this podcast episode is actually Tent Makers 101, Tent Makers 101, where Christian principles fuel business practices. And you are a tent maker if you have a gift, a talent, a product, a service, any type of business that is seeking to follow in Jesus' footsteps and meet the needs of the community so you can impact them with the everlasting gospel, then guess what? You are a tent maker, and we're meeting every day on Facebook with other entrepreneurs to help them grow and foster their growth, to collaborate together, right, and to even have strategic partnerships that they can put together, so we can actually increase your brand awareness and your revenue. So we truly believe that every business is a ministry, and when you accomplish God's purpose in the world through the form of your business and your products and services, then guess what? You are truly successful. So don't wait. Go to Facebook right now and join us at Tent Makers 101 Biblical Entrepreneurship. So, Mr. Theophilus, right? Can you just give us a word to the fathers out there who are struggling, who are in this kind of place where, they may be they're just down, man. They may be going through even just a period of depression because they feel like they're not where they need to be for their family,
Yeah. I've said in this podcast, God knows exactly where you are. And, the answers that you seek, he has, but some of it he left inside of you for you to discover. And so just the process of drawing those things out. Think about, how do you embody yourself? What are things that God has given you? You probably know this by now already. Certain patterns that you have, certain desires and things that seem unique to you. You have like this weird quirk of sorts. The process of drawing those things out and living them and embodying them and aligning to them is really what gets us further where God intends us to be. And so whatever it is that you're going through, you can choose to stay stuck or get help and save you that time later on, like we discussed. When I was on that journey, it was very easy to just keep going around in circles. Studies have it where it's like, if we are dropped in a wilderness we're not familiar, we will actually wander in 100 to 200 meter diameter circles. We'll just go in circles. If we don't have a heading, we don't have a direction of where we're going to go, we are going to go in a circle. And if you're blindfolded, the diameter goes down to 10 meters, 10 meter circles. So you need to have a heading. You need to know who you are. That's why the main thing is who are you? Where are you going? If you are a ship setting out from a dock, you need to know what your destination is. You need to know where that's going, or else you're just going to go in circles also. And so as the captain of the ship, you are worthy of investment. You are worthy of taking care of yourself. You are the most important piece of what holds your family together. And when you don't do that, we start to lose control. Our children start to lose their way. And that is why we're seeing so many children, younger and younger active shooters now. Just look at the age, pay attention to that. A lot of them don't have a lot of good fathers, and really, fathers, it starts with you. You are the linchpin to the family and also to the world. You may not see it right now, but it impacts everything. It impacts everybody. And so, if you need a conversation, just reach out. I'd love to be connected. Not everything requires me to sell you a service. It's really just a conversation, just like what we had right here. You can find me on Facebook, Coach Theo. You can even find my name. There's nobody else with that name for sure. I think God intended that. And if you wanted to join a space, because it's for all fathers, a space where you can show up and be yourself, authentic, and share unconditionally and have camaraderie. Every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the meetup where fathers come all over from Zoom, and we just talk and share about, wins and celebrate things that are happening, talk about things that are going wrong, and just hold each other. It's one of the most purest spaces that I've been a part of. And we also have that Facebook community. That Facebook community I have only for people who have joined the meetup, so they know what we're about. And then also the Noble Father podcast, which is really just a space for me to organically share about things that are on my heart from my own experience throughout the week, and whatever else God puts on my heart to share. And those are things that I constantly put out. And you can find me on Instagram also at Coach Theo Z, I believe, or Z. Sorry, American audience. Coach Theo Z. And I just post things of, content of everything. I just try to get people to think deeper. That's what I like, as a coach is I want you to go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. And so, yeah, that's about all I want to say.
Man, I appreciate it. We thank Coach Theo for coming through and really sharing with us, man. Y'all definitely check out the Noble Father podcast. Make sure that you're subscribed, you know what I'm saying? And make sure you subscribe to the Lion and the Lambo podcast as well. Of course, we're on every streaming platform, Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google, like we everywhere, right? So wherever you like to listen to your podcast, we are there for your listening pleasure. So make sure you lock in with Coach Theo, man, especially fathers out there, man. Jump on the Thursday Zoom call, check it out, right, and get into the Facebook group so you can get around other people and other individuals, right, who understand what you're going through. There's a blessing in having people who you can rock with, who understand what you're feeling and what you're going through. And it's a safe space, and it's a space to where, you know what, you can be your authentic self. And also for those who are fathers who seeking to grow in their faith, right, in their ability to do what God has called them to do. This is a great opportunity for you to also be a witness to some other men, right, who are also dealing with things that's going on too. Because I know that there's people in this group who are not just of the Christian background, but I know many of my audience, many of my listeners, right, that we come from that background, and so this is another chance for you also to not just be blessed, right, in what you hear and what you receive, but also to be a blessing, right, as you can share some challenges and how you got over it and what you did to get over it too. So definitely, think about that too, man. So, hey, Theo, man, I really appreciate you for locking in with us. Thank you for jumping on, man. It's not going to be the last time we jump on and do some stuff together. Absolutely. So I can't wait to see what God is going to continue to do in you and through your coaching business, man. So appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, so until next time, man, y'all lock in and make sure you go impact the world. I'll see y'all later.